There is so much I want to talk to you about. But first, let me introduce myself and tell you a little bit about what I'm about, and then we'll get into some cards. Hi, my name is Carrie. I'm probably one of, hundreds, maybe thousands of, readers you might find on YouTube, and, you can be scrolling through and you find, it's like, oh, does this person have something that I need to hear? Does that person have something I need to hear? And in my own experience, I've noticed that there's a general kind of theme that you're going to find in a lot of readings that you get online. A lot of people following the same currents, and you get these larger collectives, and it's like you might find some of the information is kind of useful, but then some of the information is not particularly relevant to yourself, and I'm finding that that's a lot of the times the case for myself. So I'm kind of hoping that I might be able to try to have a different approach, different kind of spin on things than you might find with other readers. It won't always be necessarily me doing a reading. Sometimes I just might have some kind of things, so I want to talk about some insights, perhaps spiritual topics. I've found throughout my life that that there have been times where I've just intuitively understood things, and it's I might go back and be like, do I really know what I'm talking about? And then it's like a year later, it's like, oh yeah, that thing that I thought it was true, or not. So, kind of take what I say with a grain of salt, but I want to kind of try to give you a little bit of a different approach toward things. Some of the things I talk about might be a little bit more like conventional meanings versus my own interpretations. It's not necessarily that it's right or wrong. It's we have our own ways of understanding things individually. So hopefully some of the things I say can be relevant for you. So that being said, I said let's pull out some cards, and I actually had pulled out one card as a particular topic to kind of start with, and that is temperance. So I'm using the Robin Wood deck. It's kind of a little bit more of an artistic spin on your classic Rider-Waite. So like you might see it like with this Temperance card, how the angel is juggling balls, which I imagine to be gold, silver, and mercury, as those are common in more alchemical kinds of things, whereas in like your classic Rider-Waite, you'd have the angel holding, like two cups, pouring one into the other. And so when we look at the Temperance card, the common association would be like a balance, kind of a thing. You would have like the like the physical and the non-physical, the logical and the emotional, and these are definitely the case. They're definitely a common understanding with the Temperance card, and I'm going to go a little bit in that direction, but with my own spin. So in my own life personally right now, with certain difficulties, there's this kind of a need to be emotionally I don't want to say like blank or numb, a kind of both stable and going with the flow at the same time. So like you see with like the angel's feet, like one on the rock, one in the water, that solid foundation, and then that fluidity, the ability to go with the flow. And so So if you would look at the, like life circumstances, for example, like right now, like dealing with some financial difficulties because my job is not really providing good hours during this time of year, and having to keep this kind of a level head, this firmness and solidness in myself, but at the same time being like, well, I'm not making enough money at my current job to meet ends. So that fluidity would kind of come into be like, okay, well, what's the solution? What do I need to do? What course correction or change do I need to make to, be able to meet my ends? Then, you take that solid foundation of the rock, that kind of that personal strength, that personal like reliability, like I can handle things, I can meet situations. All this said sounds like, pretty typical kind of interpretation of the Temperance card in a tarot, but so this is where like I feel a little bit differently about some aspects. So, you know, when it comes to like having the difficulties in life, you can have this like people say like you can have an approach of where it's like either life is happening to you or that life is happening for you, and I find that's a little bit short-sighted. I feel like the truth of the matter is that life is happening through you, right? The ability for you to solve your problems, the ability for you to keep like your emotions in a stable, steady kind of way, so that way you don't get overwhelmed by circumstances, so you don't get overwhelmed um, just by your internal state, these types of things. And you might find in your own personal life, if this reading happens to resonate with you at all, that um, maybe you find that like there are situations in your life that the solutions are not being presented to you from the outside, right? You could say, oh, this is happening to me, this is happening, or this is happening for me, right? But the reality of the matter is that when you decide to become a little bit more sovereign in yourself, taking that responsibility, life happening through you or from you, you become that agent, in the same way that when a tree is growing, that, the growth of the tree isn't happening to the leaf, for the leaf. It's happening through the leaf, right? The leaf is part of that tree, so you are part of this flow of life, right? So, we're looking at Temperance. Let me pull two more cards and see where we can kind of go from there, right? We have this ability to meet our challenges in our life, this ability to, maintain our own balance, our own ability to, alchemize whatever situation we're in. Taking that, let's see what these other two cards might have to say that could pertain to individuals' personal circumstances, maybe even my own personal circumstance, and hopefully you'll resonate with it. And all right, let's see what we get. Okay, so next I have the Eight of Pentacles, right? So if you look at the Eight of Pentacles, you have this young child who is learning a skill, developing something that they can rely on for themselves. So, when we live in uncertain times, when you live in uncertain circumstances, what can you count on? Yourself. You can count on your ability to, have something that you can sustain. Like, for example, if you need some source of income, you don't need a job. I mean, yes, if that's how you're getting your income, but you need income, right? Your own skills. And with these skills, then you become more stable in yourself and your ability to be able to maintain without necessarily the outside circumstances dictating, like, do I have enough? Can I meet the challenges that are coming for me? All right, and let's go ahead and look at another card. Okay, so we're looking at the Queen of Pentacles. So when I'm looking at the Queen of Pentacles right now, what I'm thinking about here is, um, so the Queen, she is, right, she's surrounded by this lush garden. She's tending to her pentacle. She's got all this life around here. The rabbits. It's kind of that spring energy, right? So I would think of this in kind of terms of like an evergreen type of energy, an evergreen type of way of handling things, right? Whether that being with like the Eight of Pentacles, learning the skill, but continuing to develop the skill. Eventually, you come to a point to where like there's a certain level of mastery to where you can rely on the skills that you have to bring you the things that you need. It's like if you maintain this freshness, like you're kind of always in that spring season. You're kind of always in the ability for new growth or new shoots, not in the sense of like the page, but in the sense of like she's able to nurture the new things as opposed to just being the new thing. So putting these three cards together, what I'm looking at here is a sense of the ability to meet your own challenges and circumstances, based off of like you developing a skill that you can rely on for yourself that is not dependent upon outside forces. So I think that's a good point to kind of start from right there for this channel. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of direction to think about, and kind of like, make plans, actions that you can, use to develop your own kind of personal stability that is not dependent on outside sources. And if you want to kind of come along with this journey with me, I'll be talking more on other subjects and topics, whether using these cards or another deck I have, or even not necessarily using the cards, just talking about different types of things. Go ahead and go ahead and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.